Hi there. After my family and I started homeschooling, not long after, I decided to plan a trip to Washington, D.C. and the surrounding area. And we went with another family, and my kids had a blast. We visited all over D.C. I ran them ragged, but we had such a great time. And it's a trip that I really want other homeschool families to be able to enjoy. So I've organized a trip from April 12th to April 18th of 2026 just for homeschool families. And we will be seeing some amazing sites. We'll go to Ford's Theater, where the Lincoln assassination took place. We'll go to the Spy Museum. We're going to see, of course, all the memorials. We will see some government buildings. Also, Mount Vernon is one of my favorite places where George Washington made his home, and the National Zoo, the Museum of the Bible, the Smithsonian, and also Arlington Cemetery. So please join me. This is one of the best things you can do as an American homeschool family. But even if you're coming from abroad, you're more than welcome. I hope to see you there.
The Sam Sorbo Show is brought to you in partnership by the Herzog Foundation.
Hi there. My guest today is a podcast host. She's interviewed over 500 business leaders and speakers. She's a speaker herself. She actually won the She Leads Florida Award in the area of social media. And I am very excited to talk to her. This is the Sam Sorbo Show. You won't want to miss this. Here we go.
Sam Sorbo.
Sam, welcome back to the program.
We're glad to welcome Sam Sorbo.
It's great to have you here.
All right. So she is a TEDx speaker. She's also the host of Getting Speakers Booked, and which is a podcast for speakers by speakers. And I met her at the She Leads Florida luncheon that I attended a short while ago and was super impressed by her. Macy Baxi is joining me right now. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I met you at this luncheon for She Leads Florida. Why don't you start? Tell us a little bit about getting that award. How did that come about?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. So we moved to Florida probably about 3.5 years ago. And one of the first people we ever met was Pastor Geraldine Denny, because my dad was really adamant about connecting with local Christian leaders. And she was one of the first people that popped up. So a few months go by and I get connected with her. And I said, hey, I'm starting this podcast for people in Flagler County. Why I love Flagler County. So she was probably the first person I interviewed. And after that, actually, while I was recording, she goes, Macy, I love this conversation so much. I love talking to you. I really want you to be honored for the inaugural She Leads event in 2024. So I got honored last year, and it was so amazing to be part of the first Florida event for She Leads.
I did not realize that it was only 2 years old. That's so weird. Jerlyn reached out to me, I suppose around that time. And that's when I began a relationship with her. And she is quite an impressive gal, full of spunk, vim and vigor, as they say. And so you started doing a podcast that was not this podcast. It was a different podcast for Flagler County, mm-hmm. which is a county in Florida named after Flagler. Do you know much about Flagler? Him?
Flagler, the guy? No, not too much.
Oh, you should read his story. It's a very interesting story. Mm-hmm. Apparently he wanted to build the railroad so badly that he traded for every mile of railroad. They gave him a certain number of acres of land. Mm. And that's how he became the biggest landowner in the state of Florida. And of course, he owned the land right next to the railroad, which made a lot of money for him eventually.
Yeah.
There's the Flagler Museum down here in Palm Beach that is quite impressive. It's a lovely way to spend a day if you ever get down here. So now you've moved on to speakers, and your dad's very involved in this. In fact, your whole family, this is a bit of a family affair. And to full disclosure, we are preparing for your first production of a TEDx event.
Yes.
Called TEDx Lake Mary. And in fact, I think this episode is going to air shortly before that event. So so you did your own TEDx talk, and actually we'll show some clips of it as we're talking. You did your own TEDx talk. What was that about? Set that up for us.
So, podcasting has been a huge part of my journey for the past 4.5 years or so. So, in the beginning,
How
end
old
of,
are you?
I'm turning 22 next Monday.
Okay. Since you were 18 or
Yes.
17, you've been
Yep.
podcasting. You've been interested in podcasts and stuff like that. Okay. Continue, please.
Yes, sounds good. So, yeah, well, podcasting started when I was about 17 years old, and it was really just a way for me. We were exiting COVID, so this was 2021. So it was kind of like I took almost like a hiatus. Where I lived in Michigan, we were very much shut down, so I didn't have much social interaction for over a year. So podcasting was kind of my way to get out there, but specifically meet with business owners and interview and learn from them, and also get into the networking space and everything like that. So it was a huge shift for me to go from someone who literally was in her room all year to now I was constantly on Zoom calls and meeting with people and having to put my best foot forward because I was meeting with some really successful people and I needed them to respect me, as well as publicly posting the videos. So when my dad in the end of 2023, he was like, I feel like you should do a TEDx talk. And I was like, that's bizarre. Why would I ever, like, who would ever listen to me? Right. But we went through the entire, what's it called, like procedure of applying and finding TEDx stages. And someone mentioned to me, she's like, you should really look for high school stages. Literally the next day, I got accepted to Cherry Creek HS in Denver, Colorado, and my talk was on that exact topic of how to go from, being scared and have social anxiety and being afraid to put yourself out there to every single day interviewing someone way out of my realm, way out of my experience realm and learning from them. So the podcast and the talk is about 100 podcasts in 100 days.
Right. And it's about social anxiety. It's about introversion. Would you consider yourself an introvert?
Not really, but I definitely developed a lot of anxiety throughout my youth, and that maybe I'm more ambivert. I don't know, but I was definitely an extrovert as a kid.
So have you done the test?
Which one?
Myers-Briggs.
Myers-Briggs. Yes, I
Myers-Briggs was
am.
the gold standard. There are other
Mhm.
tests, but Myers-Briggs was like the first one that came out and said, we're going to identify the type of person you are. Have
I'm
you
an
done it?
ENTP.
ENTP.
hmm
So by their standard, you're extroverted. What is the P?
Yeah.
What is the P?
I don't know what I am. Like, I don't remember. It's been a
Like
very
I'm an
long time, but I was
ENTJ.
like, oh, okay. I don't know what the P is, but I know that they
I think,
labeled me like the debater or something like that.
oh, interesting. I thought J, I shouldn't say that. I thought J was like justice seeking and P is more, you know what I shouldn't say. We'll have to look it up.
We'll look it up. Sounds good.
But I loved, there was a part of your talk that it's not them, it's you. You said something like, it's not them, it's you. Like you're the one with the issue, you need to deal with it, which is really just, in a sense, it boils down to, you know what, take responsibility in your life for the things that you can change, because you have a lot of control. And I think that we're taught in a lot of society sort of allows us to have this conceit that it's out of our control, that we
hmm
don't have autonomy, and that basically someone or something else is sort of pulling the strings, and we're just left to suffer with it, whatever it might be. And
Right.
in fact, the opposite is true, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that seemed to be that was the takeaway that I got from watching your talk, which I really enjoyed, and I encourage people to go watch it.
Thank you.
And so Cherry Creek High School TEDx stage accepted you, and that was a whole experience in and of itself. Now, a lot of people aren't that familiar with TEDx.
hmm
I would say half the people that I talk to, because I'm so excited that I landed a TEDx, I'm going to be doing my TEDx talk, right? And
hmm
about half the people are like, "What's that?" The other half are like, wow, that's awesome. But there are a lot of people who still don't, they're not that familiar with TEDx. So can you describe a bit of the process that you went through to then take the stage. It wasn't that you had a full speech prepared, or maybe you did have your full speech prepared, but I know you went through a whole process to get to take the stage. So talk about that a little bit.
Of course. So I started applying probably January of 2024 for a TEDx stage. And what that means is online TED. So what happened basically was, obviously we have the TED conferences, and TED conferences started as a way, I think in the 90s, to get new technology. It was basically like a pitch conference of new ideas and tech that needed funding, and to get those new ideas out there. So slowly and surely TED bit made into a lot bigger thing, and they were able to go from just tech to different types of motivation and integration, and it just came more and more people were attending TED. Well, I think around late 2000s, TED realized that not everyone's going to get on a TED stage. Actually, most people are not going to get on a TED stage, but they wanted to encourage the foundation of newer ideas. So they founded TEDx. So the X stands for independently organized, which means anyone can start it. They just have to apply for the license. It's all nonprofit. No one does anything for profit. Every TEDx event is all volunteer led.
Right. And
so
I'll just interject. TED actually stands for technology, education, or sorry, entertainment and design. So it's any kind of advances in those areas. Initially, that's what TED was organized for, was to promote new ideas in those areas. Thanks for tuning into the Sam Sorbo Show. You know, we are in a battle for our very nation, a nation that was founded on Christian principles and on the Bible. The 10 Commandments is the basis for our rule of law. But these days, when you go talk to people on the street, you'll find that most of them don't even know what rule of law means. And that's why I'm so proud to have Herzog Foundation as a sponsor of my show. I also love what they do because they seek for the benefit of Christian education throughout the nation. So Herzog Foundation is a wonderful partner for us here at the Sam Sorbo Show. Thanks for watching. TED actually stands for technology, education, or sorry, entertainment and design. So it's any kind of advances in those areas. Initially, that's what TED was organized for, was to promote new ideas in those areas. And it's been very successful. The most successful talk was on education by Ted Robinson. What's his name? Ken Robinson.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
And he asked if schools kill creativity in his talk. It's a very, very good talk. Very, very, obviously it's got multiple tens of millions of views. Unfortunately, he's a socialist. And so his answer was more school, not less school. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute. So go ahead. TEDx is just independently organized. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad that you interjected, because I can never remember what TED stands for. I always remember T is technology, and the rest I don't remember. So I'm glad that you reminded me. But yeah, so TEDx, the X is independently organized. So in 2009 or so, people started making the TEDx stages. So in any city, they can organize a TEDx, and Cherry Creek HS is one in Denver, Colorado. And basically what you do is they're all publicly listed on the TED website or the TEDx website. I think it's all TED, just the TEDx section. And you can go find any stage in your state, in your city, or in the United States, in Mexico. Like, it's worldwide. So all of the applications are listed publicly. It's a little bit more work, but I'm able to find some pretty easy applications. And it's basically a Google form, which honestly I was a little bit surprised by, because I was almost scared and intimidated that TEDx was going to be this big, almost inaccessible thing for me to find, but it was pretty easy. And most applications take you through, like, they want to learn about you, who are you, what is your idea, why is it worth spreading, why is it timely, and you answer honestly a lot of questions. I remember the first form I filled out was pretty intimidating. I was like, wow, this is a lot. It made me second guess myself, but I was like, I'm just going to push through. So I think I applied to maybe 7 or so stages, but it took a while because I kept going, oh, I'm not going to get accepted. I'll apply tomorrow. And obviously tomorrow never comes. But eventually one day on Zoom, my dad sat me down. He's like, have you applied to any stages recently? I was like, no. He goes, apply
Wait,
right
your dad
now.
sat you down on Zoom? What does that mean?
So my dad and I both work from home, and we work a lot together. but obviously different computers hold different things. So I work a lot on my computer, he works on his. So instead of getting up and going to his room, we just go on Zoom and we work together so we can share our screens. This is what my email has, my
Right,
LinkedIn account, what I'm
right,
doing here. So yeah,
right.
we were on Zoom in the morning and he said, open up, go apply. So I went, I just found a bunch of stages and I went and I was just applying, and I didn't apply for a few weeks, and then that's when I heard back from Cherry Creek HS, and I was really honored and thrilled.
And then you went through a whole coaching
I
series,
did. I
right?
did. Yep.
So, and a lot of people, I think, don't quite realize, and my understanding is because they're all independently organized, these various TEDx events, they're different. They all have different approaches, right?
Mhm.
So some of them are very intense with coaching because they want to make sure that every speaker is like top notch.
Yeah.
And in fact, you can get booted during this coaching journey to
Yes.
the event. You can get booted if you're not like showing up, if you're not obviously committed to actually the highest level of performance that you can get to.
Absolutely.
And so you had a coach,
Mhm.
and you did how many coaching sessions would you say you did?
Maybe 6 or 7. I
Yeah.
don't remember the exact number, but yeah,
Right,
a
just
lot.
leading up to the event, there were several, and she helped you get your talk like down. The speeches are fully memorized.
Mhm.
You can have some graphics if you want. A lot of them don't have graphics. So and I encourage people to go online, just go to YouTube. You can look them up and you just look at the ones that have gotten a ton of views. Look at some of the ones that maybe didn't get that many views just to check them out. There are some really great talks out there that will blow your mind. That they are definitely ideas worth sharing. And uh, and so I mean it must have been such a phenomenal experience. Did your whole family go out to Denver with you?
Yeah, all
Yeah.
4 of us.
And so you go basically for the whole weekend, and I'm sure there were some speaker events leading up to the event itself, and it sounds phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm so looking forward to ours.
Yes.
But let's get back to you because I find you really an interesting person. You were homeschooled for how long?
My whole life.
Okay, so you never stepped foot into like a traditional school.
The caveat is I spent preschool and kindergarten at a Montessori school,
Okay.
and then I went to one day of public school in second grade.
In second grade? So you
In
skipped
second
first
grade.
grade entirely?
No, I was homeschooled for first grade, and then I think it was kind of more of a threat more than anything from my parents of being like, you need to make sure you are doing the homeschool work because otherwise you have to go to public school. So they sent me for the first day of school to public school for in second grade. And I was like, yeah, I will listen now and I'll go back to homeschooling.
I'm sorry, mommy. I promise to behave.
Yeah, because everyone always already was like, "Oh, are you really dumb now that you're here in public school because you were homeschooled for first grade?" And I was like, "I don't think I want to be here." So I just went back to homeschooling. But yeah, I was pretty much homeschooled the rest of my
So
life.
interesting. And was that in Michigan, did you
It
say?
was in Michigan. Yeah, I was in Michigan from I was born and raised there until I was 18 when I moved.
Oh, okay. So you guys only moved when you were 18.
Mhm.
So you came up to me at the She Leads Florida event.
Yeah.
What did you say to me? Do you remember?
I do remember. It was because you had just gotten off the stage, and Pastor Jay asked for the alumni to come up to the stage. So I was already there, and I was like, "Well, if I'm here, I'm gonna talk to her. She's right there." So I was like, "Hey, Sam, thank you so much for your talk on homeschooling. Homeschooling changed my entire life, and it changed my family's life, and it's what led all of us to Christianity."
Which is it just stunned me. It blew me away because I try to tell people that homeschooling or home education is instilling in your children a love for truth and the pursuit of truth.
Hmm.
And so for you to come up to me and say, through homeschooling, my family accepted Christ and we were all baptized was like, that's it in a nutshell. Like, There you
Yeah.
go. That's truly the gift. And so then you explained sort of how that came about. So just short version of how that actually happened, because people need to understand the mechanics of this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really funny when I came up to you, I actually had no plan of what to say other than, thank you for your talk. And I've never also explained homeschooling or my path in homeschooling that way. So it was really funny. It all came out like that. It just kind of shows like, God will put the right words in your mouth and let you speak when you're listening to him. But basically what happened is my dad was a huge nerd. He loved school when he was in India. He did everything. He loved the education system. But when he came to America, my mom and him, they got exposed throughout the first few years of their marriage because they didn't have kids until I think, 10 years into their marriage or something like that due to health concerns. He learned a lot about the American education system, and immediately a lot of his friends were like, hey, we're going to homeschool our kids. And he decided, okay, I was going to homeschool my kids.
Now
And
he was Hindu, right?
he was.
And your mother is not from India.
No, yeah,
Where
she's Chinese.
is she fully Chinese? So
Yeah.
was she religious at all?
They weren't super religious. I think my grandma, we had a lot of Buddha statues around the house from my grandma, but they weren't super religious in any super term. I think my mom was most familiar with Christianity just kind of by default almost.
Okay.
But yeah, no, neither of my family were religious. They just saw kind of what was happening in schools back in, late 90s, early 2000s. And he was like, I'm going to homeschool my kids. No question about it. Well, skip forward, they have me, they're homeschooling me, and we get plugged in with the local homeschooling community, which happened to mostly be Christians. And one of the things that we did was do a co op in a church. And I was really close with all my friends there, and a lot of them went to that church on Sunday. So they were like, hey, are you going to come to church with us on Sunday? We have like games and stuff, right? You're 7 years old. You're like, I'll do it. So I'm like, Mom, can we go to
Incidentally,
church?
and I'm sorry I keep interrupting, but I think it's good to sort of flesh out a little bit the story. So your co-op meets one day a week. Are you looking for quality homeschooling resources? Apologia offers top-notch curriculum for all ages. It's designed to inspire a love of learning and a strong foundation in faith. Head over to apologia.com and use code SORBO10 to get 10% off your next purchase. Equip your children with the best education tools and save today at Apologia, the trusted choice for homeschooling families. Your co-op meets one day a week.
Yes, on Fridays.
So there's another opportunity because they're all there on Sunday. Why don't you come on Sunday and we'll hang out again? And you being
Exactly.
an extrovert, you're like, yeah, more opportunity to hang out with people. I'm into that.
Absolutely, yeah. And church was really fun when we went on Sunday. So I was pretty much the one, and I think my mom was, my family was very flexible anyway. So my mom would take me. I never really understood why my dad didn't come with us a lot. I just figured he didn't really want to, and that was it. I didn't understand religion a lot as a kid. So I literally did not understand the difference between like, I thought Christianity was like American, being an American.
It is.
So, well, yeah, but like I thought that, the Hindu temple was because I was Indian and Christianity was just kind of because I was an American. So I didn't really understand the difference and like committing to a religion. I just thought we all go to church on Sunday, we'll all go. So yeah, I was going all the time. And then I think when it fully started cementing in my brain that, this was something to learn about and commit to, I stopped going to the Hindu temple with my dad. I mostly went there for Hindi lessons, language lessons, but it was really boring. So I didn't want to go anyway. And I didn't like reincarnation because I had learned about obviously heaven. And I was like, why don't we have that? And my dad's like, I don't know. And I was like, okay, I don't want to go anymore. So I stopped going. When I was in fourth and fifth grade, I was volunteering every single weekend on my local worship team and in the kids zone. And I just got really invested in church. And my brother followed suit. My mom was pretty invested as well, just because I was. We did make a decision to stop going to that church. Incidentally, my dad was the one who decided because he was like,
Decided to stop going to that church?
yeah, because he started coming to services with us, and he was like, these services aren't honoring the Bible. and he wasn't a Christian at that point, but they weren't willing to have like the hard conversations from stage. And that's why we stopped going. Like abortion was really big at the time. So he was like, why aren't you guys talking about this? And they were like, we don't want to scare off people. And he goes, why does that matter? Like, you should listen to the Bible more than worrying about the people. And after he had this conversation with the staff, he's like, we shouldn't go anymore because they're not actually like following the Bible and how I want you to follow the Bible. Which again, he was not following the Bible, so it was like really funny that he was the one who made that decision. um,
Well, but it's fair to point out that he didn't like hypocrites, and so he didn't want you
exactly,
following hypocrites. Like,
exactly,
it's
yeah.
not that he wanted you to be Christian; he just didn't want you to be a hypocrite. Well, that makes
Well,
sense, right?
it definitely does. And he mostly, being in America and being where we were, a lot of people he was working with were Christians and they were great people and he loved following them. And so I think that also contributed to how he was deciding what church for us to go to. But for a few years, we didn't go to a church. A lot of things were happening. And obviously, once you fall out of habit, you fall out of habit. Well, skip to 2017, I think, somewhere around that time, my dad's dad died. So he went to India for the funeral. And that's when he had the really hard conversation of, what is happening? When am I ever going to see my dad again? He knew a
Mm.
lot about Christianity because of me and my mom, because we were constantly taking him to church. I was constantly talking to my family about it. So he was asking his family and friends, hey, when are we going to see our loved ones ever again? And they didn't have an answer. Obviously, they don't have an answer. Hinduism, if anyone's not familiar, is very, very works-based. We have reincarnation. They're like, basically, eventually, maybe someday you can work towards a salvation, but they don't really have an answer. You don't really know how you get there. It can be really
Or
confusing.
your dad comes back as a cat. Is that part
Yes,
of it?
yes. No, this was a real question I had when I was 7 years old. I had just learned about heaven. I came back to my dad and I said, hey, in your culture, you guys have reincarnation and this is heaven. When do you guys get heaven? He goes, I don't know. We just have reincarnation. I'm like, so is there a possibility you could reincarnate as a bug? He goes, yeah. And I was like, okay, but in reincarnation, are you always going to be married to my mom? And he was like, I have no idea. I don't have an answer for you. And that was the day I decided. I was like, I don't want this. The idea of being in heaven with my loved ones forever is way more compelling. And obviously, you're 7. You don't want your parents to break up. The idea of my parents not being together was like awful. So that's
That's
what
funny.
that would
The
compel
idea
me.
of my dad becoming a bug was not great, but if my parents broke up, that would be much worse.
Yes, definitely. That was my decision making at that time. But I'm very happy that I made that decision,
Yeah,
obviously.
sure.
So my dad came back to the States. He did a lot of soul searching, a lot of questions with his loved ones that were Christian, the people that he always looked up to. And I don't remember when, but then I think around maybe late 2019, he was like, I've decided, I've committed, I want to be a Christian. And he went headfirst, dived deep into everything that he could. And then in 2020, the 3 of them got baptized. I didn't at the time because I had to stay back and watch my grandma because I lived with her. But I got baptized a year later on the 18th birthday.
Aw, that's so lovely. And you guys found a church.
Yes, we did. We found a church that was open during COVID. That's why we went, because nothing was open in Michigan. A lot of churches weren't open either, but that church was open, so we started going in 2020. And then we moved
And
to Florida and found a new church.
I heard that your church in Florida is fire and brimstone. And the guy just talks about everything from the pulpit and has no
Yes,
fear.
yeah.
And that's really what you want. You want somebody who's and by the way, like, even if he's wrong, it's better that he professes an opinion than that he just shirks away from, talking about the difficult things. So I really, when I had a chance to speak with your dad, like, I really commended or admired that about him, that he,
Thank you.
once he made his decision, he's like, no, this is the way. We don't suffer hypocrites. We're not into this just because it's feel good,
Mhm.
which is interesting when you look at Christianity. If you wanted to invent a religion, this isn't the way to do it. Convincing somebody that their sin is going to enslave them forever, even though that's the
Mhm.
truth, but trying to convince somebody of this, and that you have to suffer because that's what life is about, basically, is like, it's not the greatest selling technique. It's not this is not an obvious story in terms of, having maybe somebody just concocting it and trying to put it over on the world. It's absurd to
Yeah.
think that. So,
Actually, there's another point. I've never told you this. I don't know if my dad did either, but I don't remember when the movie came out. I'm sure you know, but I showed my family God's Not Dead
mm,
when it came out because all my friends were watching it. And of course, if my friends are doing it, I have to do it. But I rented God's Not Dead, and it was a huge point in my faith. And then I think also my dad's faith, because in that movie, they show some other faiths that were not Christianity. And my dad and I had a really long discussion after that movie, and it was a huge selling point for, not selling point, but a huge
yeah.
turning point in my family. So thanks. That was a great movie. We had a lot of fun with it for sure.
Yeah, it was very well written. And
Mm.
the same writers wrote What If, which was Kevin's first faith-based movie.
Oh.
And probably I say that it's the original, the very first unabashedly Christian Hollywood caliber film ever,
Mm.
in the modern era. So Hollywood used to make faith-filled movies. Everything was faithful. It was good morality. They were trying to sell a good culture they were trying to sow a good culture into
Right.
the culture of America and export it to the world. And then it shifted in the 60s and it became this anti-culture, this anti-hero, negative zombie apocalypse kind of culture
Right.
that Hollywood started to sow. And so in that era, I would say that What If was the first really unabashedly Christian, fully Hollywood caliber, no B, status for this movie at all. And it's written by the same writers, and Kevin likes it even better than God's Not Dead. But God's Not Dead had a great marketing thrust behind it. It didn't have a lot of money. It had very little money, but the marketing plan for it was brilliant. They just pulled it out of the hat. And so it made like $170 million worldwide. It was crazy. On a, $3 million movie. It was just unbelievable. Too bad we didn't own it. That would have been nice. Okay, so let's talk quickly about because we're running a little bit out of time. The podcast that you do, talking to speakers, it's for speakers by speakers or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you talk to leaders,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
What's a surprising story that you heard on your podcast?
Surprising
Or
story. It's pretty new. I don't know if I have any super surprising stories right now. I'll try to think. I don't know. We usually get some really great tips. Yeah, I'm sorry. I wish I had a better
okay,
answer.
that's
I
fine.
can't think of anything right
You
now.
work with your dad.
Hmm.
Was that sort of by design? Like you were raised to grow up to work with your dad, basically?
Yeah, pretty much. I worked with my family my whole life. So, hashtag fun fact, my first ever job was when I was 7 years old at my family's restaurant that my mom's side of the family owned. It was a Chinese restaurant in Michigan. And so I worked there from ages 7 to 16 when they shut it down. So I was just used to working with my family, which means there's a certain type of flexibility that you have when you talk to them, when they give you orders or something like that. So entrepreneurship was obviously in my blood, and then being with my family was something always in my blood. So when
And
I
that's
was
something that
16.
your
Mhm.
homeschooling fed into, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Stay ahead of the storm with IQ Weather, a premium all video homeschool course that makes learning science exciting and engaging. This vivid, entertaining program incorporates physics, chemistry, geography, geology, astronomy, and oceanography, giving your kids a well rounded education in the fascinating world of weather. Designed to captivate young minds, IQ Weather makes complex concepts easy to understand and fun to explore. Visit iqweather.com and use code SAM to get 15% off your order. Give your kids a science education they'll love and stay prepared for anything. Start your IQ Weather journey today. What kinds of jobs did you do at the Chinese restaurant when you were 7, 8, 9?
So when I was 7 to 10, I did bus jobs on every holiday. So Easter, Christmas, New Year's, Mother's Day, Father's Day, anything like that. I was the busser, so I cleaned everything up. But
Extra set of hands. Yeah.
yeah. But when I was
And you're,
11, yeah.
yeah. No, go ahead. When you were 11.
When I was 11, I got like my part-time job. So every weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was the cashier. So I was front of house from 11 to 16.
And did you get paid?
I did. Yeah.
And did your brother follow in those footsteps?
My brother, no. He is 4.5 years younger than me. So around the time the restaurant was closing was kind of his last chance to get in there, but he just really did not want to do it. And I think my family was just kind of like, we have too much going on. We're not going to sit here and convince him to do it. So he didn't really work at the restaurant, no.
And it's just the two of you
Yes.
as kids. And
Mhm.
he's not out of school yet, is he? Oh,
No,
this is
he's
his senior year?
correct.
Yeah. And he's also involved in the TEDx event. Well, it's a whole family, right?
Yes.
So what do you see for your future? What do you want to, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What's your vision for yourself?
5 years, so that's 2030. I would say definitely somewhere along the lines. I love kids with everything in me, and I love family. So, absolutely, to have a family is a huge priority, I know, for me. But on top of that, like career wise, I love events. I love the whole running the TEDx Lake Mary, helping my mom with it. My role is officially a co-organizer. I love every aspect of that. So honestly, to dive deeper into events, doing more live events, in-person events, also, online events. I love bringing people together, everyone celebrating together, everyone having a great time. So I definitely want to dive more into events and then whatever that brings. So speaking, of course, is part of it. But yeah, I would say events.
So it's interesting because typically I'll ask a guest, I have 3 questions that I ask a guest: your education background and whether you use it in your current career. It was a little bit premature to ask you that, but if you see yourself as an event planner,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to go to school for that.
No, no.
So interesting. I just want people to recognize that you pursued academics. Were you in classical conversations, or what were you doing as your co-op?
My co-op was not curriculum based. My co-op was more of it was called Enrichment Hub. So it was for extracurriculars more than
Okay.
actual, I guess, like classes. So
So
not
what was
classical.
your curriculum? What did you guys pursue as a curriculum?
My dad made up my curriculum. So I didn't follow a curriculum. For math, I'm a very big reader. So my dad did this made up kind of curriculum where he would give me a book or any book that I wanted to read. I would say, I want to read this. And, growing up, I loved history. So I read a lot of American Girl doll. Really any book that I was interested, I'd give it to him. He would go through the book and he would highlight 10 words, and I'd have to go research the meaning and then write it all on a list for him. So I had to read to find the words. And then for math, I did IXL online. That was like the bane of my existence, but I did do it.
How far did you get in math?
Fifth grade. Yeah, I'm not a math person, so the fifth grade was really just my dad was like, "You only need to know it," and my math is okay enough. But I did math for the restaurant. We didn't have to put it in the system. I could do it off if you gave me $20 for a $7.50, 53, and you give me $20.03. I could do the math in my head and I could just keep
Right.
it. So that was the math I did learn for sure. And I know off the top of my head. But yeah, and then everything else my dad kind of made up. I did a lot of business stuff, a lot of marketing. So yeah,
Did you read Rich Dad Poor Dad?
I did. I read Rich Dad Poor
Classic.
Dad, Seven
Did you read
Habits of
the
Highly Effective.
E-Myth?
The what?
The E-Myth.
No.
Oh, okay. There's your homework assignment.
Sounds good.
You'll enjoy that book. It's very well written. It's another classic. I think it predates. It might predate Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay.
And
Sounds
it's
good.
basically why entrepreneurs fail.
Okay.
But it's it's the way that he explains it is he makes it kind of visceral, and it makes perfect sense. So you'll enjoy that, I hope.
Yeah.
All right. So what advice would you give your younger self? These
What
questions are
advice would
kind
I
of
give
not
my younger
appropriate. Do you have any
No.
advice to give your younger self?
So my first ever podcast when I started when I was 17 was called What Would You Say to Your Younger Self? So I actually am very familiar with this question. I think the biggest advice I would give to my younger self is I would say learn to work with my anxiety than against it. I think I was very confused in my entire childhood when I started developing more anxious habits that I wanted to shy away, and it was very hard for me to rationalize what that looked like in my brain. And thankfully, now that more importantly, like I have such a great community around me, but also like every single Tuesday, me and my friends, we have Bible study. So we have Bible study tonight. And it's really helpful for me when I get to those habits that I wanted to hide, which I did for a lot of my early high school. So probably 12 to 15 or 16. I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to have friends. I was always scared everyone disliked me. So I think for me, it would be working with that and being able to rationalize it a little bit better and pushing myself constantly out of that comfort zone, I would have probably been a lot happier than I was in those years.
So working with your anxiety, what you mean is, in a sense, shoving it aside and behaving as what you perceive to be reasonable, as opposed to allowing your anxiety to control your behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Yeah.
that what I'm hearing? Okay. One of my favorite products that I've recommended to a number of people is Neuromatic's Quiet Brain Oil. Quiet brain is what I need when I'm trying to go to sleep. What's great about Neuromatic's Quiet Brain Oil, it's a unique proprietary blend of essential oils, very pure and therapeutic grade essential oils like frankincense, myrrh, lavender, and sandalwood. And I love it. It helps me sleep at night. And most importantly, it's very easy to travel with. That first night in a hotel for me is always a little bit dicey. Am I going to sleep well? And with Neuromatic's Quiet Brain Oil, really helps me. So I highly recommend it. You can get it at sorbostudios.com, and we'll see you there. So working with your anxiety, what you mean is, in a sense, shoving it aside and behaving as what you perceive to be reasonable, as opposed to allowing your anxiety to control your behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Yeah.
that what I'm hearing? Okay. That's really fascinating. My husband went through a 3-year ordeal dealing with strokes.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of the head injury, he had uncontrollable anxiety, which took the form of panic and anxiety attacks. And so he would get a panic attack, and outwardly, we would understand nothing's happening. But inwardly, his adrenaline was off the charts and he was panicking.
Mm-hmm.
And so I used to say to him, you need to dive into that. You need to lean into it and embrace it and describe it. What color is it? What does it smell like? What is it? What's the feeling like? Like, really examine it. Because if you embrace it, look, our monsters get bigger when we turn away.
Mm-hmm.
Run away from a monster, it gets bigger and bigger and comes toward you.
Right.
When you lean into the monster, you realize that it's only tiny.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that that's what I'm hearing you say in a little bit of a different
Yeah.
vernacular, is
Absolutely.
lean into it and in fact use it, right? So how could you use it? You tell people,
Mm-hmm.
you know what, I'm socially awkward because I'm really nervous, and I
Mm-hmm.
apologize for that. But I just decided that I needed to have this experience. So just bear with me and I'll work through this, right? And so you embrace it. You say, "Yep, this is part of me. I'm super awkward, I'm super anxious, I'm super whatever."
Right.
You'll be maybe surprised by how accommodating people will be
Mm-hmm.
if just up
Absolutely.
front. Whereas, I had a friend growing up who was very pretty and very intimidated. And so she didn't engage people, and everybody thought she was stuck up.
Oh no.
And
Yeah.
she wasn't. She was just super intimidated. She couldn't, deal. And so,
Right.
but everybody thought she was just a, biatch because she was stuck up and she wouldn't engage people. And
Mhm.
I finally figured it out. It took me a while because I was just young and whatever. And I finally figured it out. They think she's nasty because she doesn't talk to them. But I
Right.
know why she doesn't talk to them.
Right. Yeah. I feel that for sure. I was
Yeah.
afraid to like go up to people until honestly pretty recently. I could handle a conversation if it came to me, but for me to go out there and put myself out there was honestly a lot. But
Yeah. So work with your anxiety, not against it.
yeah.
Don't hide it. To bring it in. Okay. What's the most urgent cultural shift you see that is needed in the world in order to, get things back on track, so to speak?
There's so many. Obviously, that's the number one answer is like there are so many. Where do you
Mhm.
start? But given my age, probably, I'm 21, turning 22 in literally a week, which is fun. But I think the most common conversation that I'm having with a lot of my friends is the biggest question around marriage and how do you prepare for something like that? And I think there are just too many answers out there now and too many answers that don't make sense. There are so many opinions on that sometimes my friends they don't know where to start if they are single and they're looking for someone or if they're dating and they're not sure if that's the real I need to get married person or not, or if they're looking to get married and they're not really sure what type of conversations they need to have. And I think it's the biggest answer is because the church is not centered in that and God is not centered in how you're looking. Because when you ask someone, I know the number one question I get is almost like, what is your type in a guy? And I'm like, I don't have a great answer personally. I am more of a personality more than anything. I could look at you and think, okay, you're attractive, but I will not have any type of desire toward that unless I actually get to know who you are. And the only answer I have is I'm looking for someone who's Christian, right? I'm looking for someone who is going to put God first in our marriage. And I think that's the biggest cultural shift because there's so many bad relationships I saw on the internet for so long that it made me really anxious about picking a spouse. Like, oh my gosh, is he going to do this? Is he going to do that? Is he going to cheat on me? The biggest there's a huge trend of like is this considered cheating or not and it's up to a personal partner but
Right.
like there is an answer to things, right? There is an
Right.
answer if
And
it's cheating or not.
Jesus said, looking at a woman with lust in your eye is actually adultery. Like, make no mistake. If you're cheating with your thoughts, then you're cheating. So,
Exactly.
so this is so interesting because I've heard this now recently, and it's making more and more sense to me. This is not how I got married, but if you get married with the idea that your job is to make sure that your spouse gets to heaven as best you can. Obviously,
Mm,
it's not entirely within your control, but to help your spouse get to heaven, then you are putting Christ at the center of your marriage, right?
mm,
And when you marry, you will love that person so much because you're dedicated to their betterment. You're dedicated to helping them be the best possible version of themselves that they can be.
right.
And the culture today tells us to look for marriage for what's in it for us personally. But
Yep.
well, what are you looking for in a mate? Well, I'm sorry, you're not such great crap yourself. Like, honey, like, maybe think about what you're bringing to a marriage as opposed to what you're going to get from it. Right.
Right.
And I think I think that based on the answer, I think your answer is basically to shift the narrative of what marriage is bringing to you to what you can bring to the marriage. I think
Hmm.
that's what I just heard. I
Definitely.
love that.
Thank you.
I love
Yeah.
that a lot. Surprising, actually. I was not expecting that. So very cool.
Okay.
I
Hopefully
love it.
that was good enough.
You had two really awesome answers to those two questions.
Thank you.
I just think it's great. So, Macy Bakshi, where can people find you? We will post it in the link. So actually,
Yes.
I don't need to ask you that. But I do want to encourage people. Well, first of all, I'm going to say goodbye to Macy, but I want to encourage people. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like, subscribe, do all of those good things. Share it with your friends. We are trying to grow more and more, and we appreciate you watching. And I'm so grateful to my guest, Macy Bakshi. So this is the Sam Sorbo Show. We'll see you next time. Remember, speak truth and speak it boldly.
views and opinions expressed in the Sam Sorbo Show are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views and positions of the Herzog Foundation.